There's a quiet fear that creeps in for a lot of people as retirement gets closer. It doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes it shows up as a simple thought you can't quite shake. Did I do enough, or did I miss something important? Before we continue, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this would be a really good time to do it. I've got a lot more of these waiting for you. The real question isn't whether retiring with a pension and Social Security sounds safe. It's whether your income will actually support your life in a way that lets you breathe. Most people walk into retirement focused on account balances. They look at their 401k, their IRA, their savings, and they ask, is this enough? And if the number doesn't feel big enough, they feel behind. Even if they have something incredibly valuable sitting right in front of them, the goal of retirement is not wealth, it's income. Let that sink in. Because here's the thing, most people are being told they are behind when they're not. Think about a house for a second. When you walk into a house, your eyes go to the kitchen, the couch, the paint on the walls, the nice stuff you can see. But none of that matters if the foundation underneath is cracked. The foundation is what holds the whole thing up. Your income floor works the same way. It's not flashy, it's not exciting, it doesn't make for a great dinner conversation. But it is the part that carries the weight. Your income floor is like the foundation of your house. Strong, underground, invisible, but holding everything up. Your savings? That's more like the furniture. Nice to have, comfortable, but it sits on top of something else. Most people focus on decorating the furniture while ignoring whether the foundation is solid. Now listen, if you have a pension and Social Security, you may already be standing on one of the strongest financial foundations available today. That doesn't mean you ignore your savings. It means you stop treating savings like the only thing that matters. Because it isn't. Not even close. I want you to picture your retirement in two piles. Not one giant scary number. Two piles. Pile one is income that shows up no matter what. Social Security, a pension, maybe rental income, money that keeps coming whether the market is smiling or throwing a fit. Pile two is your savings, your accounts, your investments, the money that can rise and fall and make you feel smart one month and nervous the next. Now here's the critical mistake most people make. They stare at pile two so hard that they almost forget pile one exists. And yet pile one is often doing far more heavy lifting than people realize. You may already have what people with millions are searching for. Because what are they really searching for? Not a bigger statement balance, not bragging rights. They're searching for the feeling that the bills are handled, the basics are covered, and a bad market month doesn't get to decide whether they sleep well tonight. Here's a question. If you had to choose between more money or more certainty, which would it be? Keep that in your head as we go. Let's meet two people. The first one, let's call him Frank. Frank is 67. He spent over 3 decades working a steady, dependable job. Nothing flashy, no big windfalls, just consistency. If you saw him walking down the street, you wouldn't think, there goes someone financially secure. You might actually think the opposite. Frank lives in a modest home. He drives an older car. And if you looked strictly at his savings, you'd probably panic for him. Because Frank has around $140,000 saved. By the standards you've been taught, Frank is behind. But here's what you don't see when you only look at that number. Frank has a monthly pension. He has Social Security income. His home is fully paid off. Every single month, without touching his savings, money shows up, consistently, predictably. Frank is not struggling. Frank is not stressed. Frank is living a life that works. Now, let's meet Gary. Gary did everything right, at least according to the rules he was given. He saved aggressively. He invested diligently. He followed the benchmarks. And today, Gary has $800,000 saved. On paper, Gary is a success story. But Gary doesn't feel like one. Gary still has a mortgage. Gary doesn't have a pension. Gary relies heavily on his investment account to fund his life. Every market fluctuation feels personal. Gary has more money than Frank, but less peace. It's not about who has more saved. It's about who has more certainty. And that right there is the first thing you need to know if you're retiring with a pension and Social Security. Those checks are not side notes. They are not background noise. They are the center of the conversation. They are the invisible asset that many people spend their whole lives trying to recreate with giant investment balances. Think of your Social Security benefit like a faucet. Behind that faucet is a pipe, one you've been filling your entire working life. Every paycheck, every tax contribution, it all builds pressure in that pipe. Now here's how it works. The longer you wait to turn the faucet on, the stronger the pressure becomes. Wait until 70, the flow is powerful. Turn it on earlier, and the flow is lighter. But here's the part most people don't think about. That faucet belongs to you. You paid into it. And if you wait too long to turn it on, some of that water never reaches you. It just stays in the pipe, unused, gone. Now, does that mean you should always turn it on early? No. And this is where people get into trouble. They want one age, one perfect answer, one magic number that tells them what smart people do. But the question isn't what's the best age. It's what's the best decision for your life right now. If your pension and your spouse's income and your other assets already give you breathing room, waiting might make a lot of sense. If you need income sooner, or your health is shaky, or the quiet fear of draining savings is already stealing your peace, taking it earlier might make sense. It's not pessimism, it's realism. And in this case, realism isn't negative, it's empowering. Here's where people get tripped up. They hear that waiting gives you more later, which is true, but they quietly ignore the income they gave up while waiting. They talk about the bigger monthly check as if it came from nowhere. It didn't. It came at a cost. Time is part of the price. And that brings us to the second thing you need to know. A pension is not just a monthly payment. A pension is a real asset, even if it doesn't show up on your brokerage app with a shiny little chart. Think about an old fruit tree in your backyard. Maybe it doesn't look fancy. Maybe nobody comes over to admire it. But every season, it quietly gives. You don't have to beg it. You don't have to time it. You don't have to panic every time the weather changes for a day. It just keeps producing. A pension works like that. Invisibly, steadily, it keeps supporting your life. And because it doesn't feel like an account balance, people often underestimate how valuable it really is. Let me ask you, have you ever calculated what your pension is actually worth in real dollars? Most people never do. If you tried to buy the same level of guaranteed monthly income from an insurance company or build it yourself from investments, the number would shock you. It could take hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes much more. Yet people with pensions often talk about themselves as if they're behind because their savings account isn't as big as someone else's. Stop measuring yourself against everyone else. Stop feeling behind and start focusing on what truly gives you freedom. A lot of the pressure comes from what I call the sticker price illusion. Imagine walking onto a car lot. Every vehicle has a sticker price. Bold, official, intimidating. It looks final, non-negotiable. But if you've ever bought a car, you already know the truth. Nobody pays the sticker. There are hidden discounts, dealer incentives, timing advantages, negotiation room. The real price is almost always lower, but the sticker exists to anchor your expectations, to make you feel like anything below it is a win, even if you're still overpaying. Now take that exact same system and apply it to retirement. That giant million-plus number people throw around as the amount you need to retire, that's your sticker price. It grabs your attention. It quietly raises your anxiety. It makes ordinary people with good foundations feel like failures. But those numbers are often built on generic assumptions. No pension, no Social Security strategy, no paid-off house, no change in spending, no real understanding of your life. Just a big loud anchor dropped into your brain. And that anchor silently erodes your confidence. Now listen carefully. If you have a pension and Social Security, your retirement math is not the same as someone who has to create every dollar of monthly income from scratch. Those are different games, different rules, different stress, different risks. What do you think? Are most people actually behind on retirement, or are they just measuring it wrong? Here's the third thing you need to know. Stability is powerful, but it does not make you immune to mistakes. A strong foundation is wonderful, but you still have to build the house wisely. Think about a slow leak under a sink. At first, it doesn't look dramatic. No flood, no disaster, just a drip. Then another, then another. Over time, that quiet little leak warps the wood, stains the cabinet, creates damage you didn't notice until it got expensive. Inflation works like that. It's the silent eroder. It doesn't usually wreck your plan overnight. It quietly chips away at your buying power year after year. That matters even if you have pension and Social Security income. Social Security does have cost of living adjustments, which sounds comforting, and it helps. But here's what you need to know. Help is not the same as full protection. Those increases may not match how your personal expenses rise, especially in areas like healthcare, insurance, property taxes, and the stuff older households tend to spend more on. And many pensions don't adjust much at all, or they adjust slowly, or they stop adjusting after a point. So even if your checks feel solid now, you still need to ask a harder question. Will they feel solid later? That is why income floor thinking matters so much. You aren't just asking what comes in next month. You're asking, how well does this income hold up over time? Think of it like shoes. When they're brand new, they feel strong, supportive, reliable. But if you walk in them long enough, the soles wear down little by little. You may not notice it every day, but eventually your feet do. That's what inflation does to income that doesn't keep pace. It wears the soles down. And while we're here, let's talk about expenses, because this is where a lot of people get surprised. Most people underestimate by a lot, not because they're foolish, because real life is sneaky. It creeps, nudges, and slowly raises the cost of normal. A repair here, a deductible there, travel you finally want to do, helping a grandchild, replacing a car, more eating out because you don't feel like cooking as much. None of that sounds outrageous by itself, but together, it changes the picture. Let me ask you something. Do you know what your monthly income will actually look like when you retire? Be honest with yourself. And not just the income. Do you know what your life will cost? Not your salary, not your old budget, your life. Because retirement isn't about replacing your paycheck. It's about supporting your actual days. What does it cost to live in your home, eat your food, pay your doctors, enjoy your weekends, and handle the surprises without feeling like every unexpected bill is a personal attack? Numbers matter, but how you feel about those numbers, that matters just as much. A lot of people with pensions and Social Security still feel anxious because they never turn those income streams into a full picture. They know the checks are coming, but they don't know what those checks mean. They haven't laid the income next to the expenses. They haven't found the gap. So they walk around with a quiet fear that something is wrong, even when the structure is stronger than they think. Now let's go one level deeper, because this part really matters. Think about a bridge, not just any bridge, a bridge with strong support columns underneath it. Those columns are your guaranteed income, pension, Social Security, maybe a spouse's benefit later. The fewer cars the bridge has to carry without support, the safer the trip. Your savings are like the extra roadway on top, useful, important. But the supports underneath do the real heavy lifting. If those supports cover most of your monthly life, your savings don't have to work nearly as hard. And when savings don't have to work as hard, something beautiful happens. You reduce one of the biggest retirement risks there is. Sequence of returns risk sounds technical, so let me make it simple. Imagine you're pulling fruit from a tree during a storm. If the storm hits early and strips the branches while you're depending on that tree for food, you're in trouble. If the storm comes later, after you've had years to gather what you need, it hurts less. That's sequence risk. It's not just about whether the market goes down, it's about when it goes down. A bad market early in retirement can do more damage because you're withdrawing while values are falling. But if your pension and Social Security cover most of your basic life, you may not have to yank money out of your investments during the storm. You can wait, you can breathe, you can let the branches recover. That flexibility is worth more than people realize. I want to know, have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but still felt behind? You are not alone. Now let's talk about couples, because survivor planning is one of those things that gets ignored until it suddenly becomes very real. Think of a tandem bicycle. When both people are riding, the bike feels balanced. 2 sets of legs, 2 sets of effort. But if one rider is suddenly gone, the bike doesn't just keep moving the same way. The whole balance changes. Retirement income can work like that in marriage. When both spouses are alive, there may be 2 Social Security checks, maybe a pension, maybe some extra savings support. But when one spouse dies, one Social Security benefit goes away. The household often keeps the larger of the 2 benefits, but not both. And some pensions shrink too, depending on the option chosen at retirement. That means the income may drop at the exact moment the surviving spouse is hurting the most. Now, yes, some household costs go down when one person is gone, but many do not. Housing, utilities, taxes, insurance, maintenance. Those don't magically disappear because one chair at the table is empty. This is why the decision about when to claim Social Security is not just about you. It may also be about the income your spouse has to live on later. Here's a question for the married folks. Have you and your spouse ever actually talked about what happens if one of you is gone? That is not a dark conversation. That is a loving conversation. That is a practical conversation. That is one of those moments where clarity protects the person you love. For some couples, it can make a lot of sense for the higher earner to wait longer, because that bigger check may become the survivor benefit later. For others, taking one earlier and one later may fit better. Again, the real question isn't what does the internet say smart people do? It's what gives your household the best balance of income, flexibility, and peace. And while we're here, let's clear up another quiet lie. More guaranteed income is not always boring. Sometimes it's freedom wearing plain clothes. People love exciting stories, huge wins, massive account balances, big market years. But the truth is, retirement peace often looks very ordinary from the outside. A paid-off house, a pension that shows up on time, Social Security deposited every month, modest spending, low drama, high sleep quality. That may not impress strangers, but strangers are not paying your bills. You are not behind. In fact, you may already be standing on one of the strongest financial foundations available today. Now, there is one more trap I want you to avoid, and it's a sneaky one. It comes disguised as precision. Think about a bathroom scale. You step on it and it gives you a number. Clean, simple. But that number doesn't tell you whether you're strong, whether you slept well, whether you're healthy, whether your clothes fit, whether you feel good in your own skin. It's one piece of information, not the whole story. Retirement calculators can do the same thing. They spit out a number, useful maybe, but limited. There used to be tools people leaned on way too hard when it came to retirement and Social Security decisions. They treated estimates like verdicts. They plugged in a few assumptions, got a neat answer, and thought the machine had spoken. But real life doesn't work like that. The calculator doesn't know your marriage, your health, your pension options, your taxes, your home, your stress level, or the way fear quietly changes behavior. A tool can help, but a tool is not wisdom. Quick check. Do you know your full retirement age for Social Security? Most people don't. And if you don't know it, that's okay. This is exactly why people feel overwhelmed. They get handed a pile of rules and a quiet pressure to make a perfect choice. But you do not need perfection to have a successful retirement. You need clarity. Here's what you need to know about claiming ages in plain English. Taking Social Security early gives you less each month, but for more months. Waiting gives you more each month, but for fewer months. Full retirement age sits in the middle as a reference point, not a commandment. That's it. The math matters, yes. But so does your life. So does your need for income. So does your spouse. So does your health. So does the comfort of knowing your bills are covered without constantly watching the market like it's a heart monitor. Here's something to think about. If you found out today that you're actually on track, how would that change your week? Would you breathe differently, sleep differently, stop doom scrolling retirement videos at midnight? Maybe. And that's why this matters so much. Because the damage isn't just financial. The damage is emotional. The silent pressure of feeling behind can steal joy from years that are supposed to feel lighter. So let me bring this back to the title of this conversation. If you are retiring with a pension and Social Security, there are 3 things you need to know. 1, your retirement is about income, not just assets. The goal is not to win a scoreboard. The goal is to make your life work month after month. 2, your pension and Social Security may be worth far more than you have been led to believe. They are not side characters. They are often the main source of strength in the story. And 3, a strong income floor does not mean you stop planning. You still need to account for inflation, real expenses, survivor needs, and how your savings fit into the gaps. Take this home with you. Get clear on your income, not how much you hope for, but how much you actually have. Look at the money that will come in every month no matter what. Social Security, pension, anything stable and predictable. That number matters more than you've been told. Then look at your actual spending, not what you think you spend. What you actually spent over the last year. Housing, food, healthcare, insurance, gifts, repairs, travel, the little things that don't feel big until they all sit in the same room together. Be honest. This part is not about judgment, it's about clarity. Then find the gap. What's the difference between your monthly income floor and your monthly life? That gap is what your savings need to cover, not some giant generic target, not the sticker price number that was designed to scare you, just the gap. After that, build a buffer, not a fantasy. Don't aim for just enough. Aim for enough plus breathing room, because things change, prices rise, roofs leak, cars age, bodies surprise you. Breathing room matters. And if you're married, sit down together and talk through what happens if one of you is gone. Which income stays? Which one goes away? Would the surviving spouse still feel steady? If the answer is unclear, that doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you found something worth fixing now while you still have choices. Let that sink in, because once you stop measuring retirement by a single giant savings number, the whole conversation changes. You stop asking, am I rich enough? And you start asking, is my life covered? That is a better question, a calmer question, a more honest question. It's not about who has more saved. It's about who has more certainty. And certainty does not always come in flashy packaging. Sometimes it arrives quietly. A pension deposit, a Social Security check, a paid-off home, a realistic budget, a spouse who knows the plan, a savings account that fills the gaps instead of carrying the whole burden alone. That's what real retirement confidence looks like. Not perfect, not glamorous, just solid. You don't need perfection to have a successful retirement. You need clarity. If the system only rewards you with almost enough, you will spend your entire life chasing more. But if you understand your numbers, if you build your income, if you define your life on your terms, you don't chase anymore. You decide. And that's the shift from fear to clarity, from chasing to choosing, from not enough to enough. If this resonated with you, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.